We're kicking off Split 2 with Spirit Blossom theme patch. This is going to be the 25.09, and we're going to have a lot of changes. One of them being actually the theme of the map. So here we go. In case you haven't seen it yet, here's a zoomed version as well. So yeah, it's going to be the first change that we're going to look into. They speak about Battle Pass. You guys can check this out if you want. Thornbound Atakhan. This is only going to be one form of Atakhan, so Rage is going out. And Renus Atakhan will now be Thornbound Atakhan, basically. So smiting Atakhan will be a lot more important right now because once you get the objective, you actually collect all of the plants petals that you get in the map. So smiting it before was not as priority as it is now because you would be worried about getting the plants after you get the objective. Now it's different. Now you smite and you get everything for yourself and your teammates. So this objective is a lot more important to contest for to get the smite instead of playing for the fight, for example. Bounties. From what I've seen, I think it's going to be better. But I haven't made like actual in-depth math about this. I think bounties are in a better spot than it has ever been. I'm not sure how this is going to land. I think it's still going to be better, but we'll see. Void Epic Monsters. So Void Grubs is only going to spawn once and it's going to be at 8 minutes. And now you're probably going to play for 2 Grubs because 2 Grubs will earn you the feats of strength. And you don't need to get 3, okay? 2 is enough for you to go away and leave the other grub, and that's it. You don't need to care about respawn or anything like that. But the fact that the Void Grubs move into 8 minutes, it makes the map more bot oriented. You know, so the dragon is going to spawn in 5 minutes. Bot lane matchup is going to be a lot more important right now because if you end up with a draft where your bot lane is not as good or your weak side bot and you're trying to play strong side into top side, then you're probably going to give the first set of dragon, swap to play into top turret and try to punish your opponent with a possible dive. That's a possibility. But if you have 2 very aggressive bot lanes that are looking to stack dragons, which is going to be heavily important after this change, then it will be very bot centric. Champions like Kalista, Caitlyn, and Draven are very possible to show up. I mean, even Varus is still going to be very popular as he is currently. So I do believe that this is going to be a huge shift, especially because Void Grubs will only be taken once. Yes, teams will probably still swap at 7 minutes, 6:30, 7 minutes to go into top lane, or send their bot lane into mid, and send their mid into side, and their top immediately into grubs so they can contest it. Um, but yeah, it's a very big change when it comes to macro as well. Rift Herald encounter. The encounter damage should be less available, but the encounter should go faster. Okay. Now spawns at 15 minutes instead of 16. So initially it was 14, moved to 16, and now it's 15. Okay. So they make it a minute earlier. Basically, you get plate from turret, and if it's a side laner, then you have to probably TP for the objective depending on the situation in case you're playing for an initial position. But if you're playing for retake, then it could be trickier because it's 15 minutes and not 16. Before, when you took the turret with plates at 14 minutes, you had time to reset and prepare the objective for Herald. Right now, being 15 minutes, maybe you have to leave earlier to actually be on timer for the objective instead of being there until the 14 minutes to take the entire plating system. Remove the Herald's case, single target damage debuff, target current HP bonus damage 4 to 20%, swap attack AD ratio 1.25, fixed on champion attacks, reducing the eyeball cooldown. Okay. Summoned pets, making quality of life changes, so basically from what I've seen it's going to be easier to drive, so low elo buff in that regard, and even if you miss the turret, it's still going to charge unless the enemy team kills it, okay? But turn speed and driving is going to be smoother experience, and now its charge is going to be lessened, but the base damage is going to be increased in comparison for first hit. Position binding and role swapping. We're making some small but important changes to the jungle support roles. Jungle will be auto-assigned smite and only one smite will be allowed per team. Okay, and supports will be the ones to get the item only. No one else is going to get the supportive item. So a huge change for Bardenet's playstyle, for example, and the detection is going to be slightly different as well. Defending champion still receives all gold XP from the lane, receives 50% less damage while under their tower in top lane. Defending tower still receives 95%. Okay. Non-supports no longer receive reduced gold and XP from lane minions during lane swap detection. Okay. This part is going to be different. Supports in mid and top lane, however, when accompanied by another champion, now receive no gold or XP from lane minions and cannot consume World Atlas charges. In case your support would like to do early play into top side, if you're playing weak side bot, or you just want to make a play in top lane after level 1 went a bit iffy, or if you want to punish the enemy top laner, it's not going to be possible. Okay, 1000% increased turret damage in top lane is unlocked behind seeing 2 non-junglers, including a support in the lane. Okay, that screen. I guess they're making some quality of life changes and kill streaks and effects as well. Okay, player behavior updates. So from what they're saying, now they're going to identify the player that was punished. So instead of you only receiving the report feedback with the information that the person got text punished or whatever, now you can see who was punished from the players who have reported. And apparently, they're going to, from what they say, I'm not sure how it's going to function, but they will try to make it more flexible to punish other players that, despite not going 0-20, they still have bad intentions or are soft tinting. So Riot is going to be making some changes regard to that. What are they going to do exactly? I'm not sure, but we'll see how it lands and how the community reacts into this as well. Misc changes. Chat restrictions now apply to champions like the post-game chat. It makes total sense. I don't think a person with chat restrictions should be able to type pre-game or post-game chat. I think it should be during the entire segment and have no interaction, so I do agree with this. Okay, now into champions. Annie actually dropped a lot of win rate, and I was not expecting it, but she dropped like 5% win rate. This is going to be a huge buff though. I'm not sure if it's going to increase by 5% again, but this is at least a 2 to 3% increase, I would say, because they're buffing Q damage when it comes to flat value, up to 10 by level 1, and then since you max this first, it's going to be 30 more by level 9. And the mana cost from W is now going to be decreased by 20 on each level, so it's a huge change for W. And Tibbers is now going to give 15%, passive magic penetration, and then 20 by the end. So you get the value from level 16 into level 6, which is huge because now you can shred and deal basically true damage to your opponents, which is really good for any. Ashe. I think Ashe is going to have a change of how she maxes ability. So in games where she is able to DPS her bot lane where they have lower amounts of range, for example, if they have Rakan, if they have, for example, Kalista, champions that have really small range and that she wants to DPS with lethal tempo, I apologize. This is going to be a really big buff for Q max Ashe because you get 10% increased attack speed by level 9 and you get 5% more damage at level 9 as well. You get 1% less AD ratio at level 1, so it doesn't really matter. But in lanes where you get outranged, you still want to max W, okay? In those lanes, you still want to max W, but in matchups where you can hit a lot and force extended trades, you definitely want to max Q and try to get the benefit out of this change from Ashe. Gwen, obviously one of the most priority champions in the game currently, whether it's competitive or solo queue as well. Her armor growth is going to be decreased. Being a melee champion that wants to be on top of you, this is a huge change because she's going to be a lot more vulnerable in comparison to before when it comes to scaling stats. And monster damage cap is going to be decreased by 5% AP instead of bonus. And flat value, it's going to be percentage AP. So big change when it comes to her passive in her clear as well. Damage per snip is going to be decreased by 3% AP as well. And the maximum damage is going down too by 15% AP in the base amount being untouched. Big nerf for Gwen. I think she's going to be less priority, but we'll see how she lands in this new patch and the new split as well. Xalte. Base damage is going to be increased by 5 and then by 45 by the last level. I don't think this really matters. It's not even, I would say it's not even a 1% increase at all. I think it's like 0 0.3, 0 0.4, 0 0.5. I think it's a placebo change. It's not going to do pretty much anything for Xante, I would say. Kalista, you remember the logic of Kalista becoming more popular because of the grubs spawning at 8 minutes and now dragons becoming more reliable? I think Riot is trying to make it so that Kalista, um, since she's going to be more priority because of the bot lane change and the dragon change and the grub change, I believe they're trying to make it that Kalista comes into the patch with a touch of weakness. Not sure how much this is going to affect her because she gets a huge AD buff in here, but her rend damage is basically lost by 5 on each level. Now, in some lanes you want to max Q if you want to poke, but in some lanes you want to go with E, so I would say this is a bit annoying for Kalista because she becomes more squishy, and initially it's a nerf. I think by the first 5 levels you are really weak, but when you transition into level 6, level 7, you start to get in a better spot than previous Kalista. So you won't lane bully as much as you could right now, but once you reach level 7, you will be more stable and even stronger than before. So yeah. Leona. Passive duration sunlight is going up by 1 second, really good quality of life change. Mana cost is going down, and mana cost from E is also going down. So this is an attempt from Riot to make Leona more popular. She is popular as a frontline option, don't get me wrong. But usually Rel, Nautilus seem like better options unless you're playing against two immobile champions and you want to go Leona because it's easier to hit your ulti or to just land CC on top of your opponent. So I like these Leona changes. They're not too big and they are nice, I would say. Morgana, a very big change for shield, so it's going to have 20 more by level 1. And their ultimate is going to have a big quality of life change. Her damage is going to be increased in her flat amount. Level 6 is going to be the biggest change because it's 25. But the biggest change is the bonus movement speed, because the bonus movement speed is going to be doubled at level 6, because it's going to give 20% instead of 10%. And then it's going to give 35% instead. It's going to give 40% instead of 35. Biggest change is by level 6 because now it's doubled, even though you will deal 25 more damage, and the shield is going to be more reliable. So in two compositions where you're playing against Fire, for example, or champions that you want to nullify their abilities, now it makes more sense because before it was way too easy to remove her spell shield and make it so that she was useless. Also, with the grubs spawning at 8 minutes, Morgana is a champion that is really effective at jungle clearing. She's really quick. She has a really big power spike when she transitions into first two items, mainly the first and second one, because she can one-shot people in one spell rotation if they are squishy. So do not sleep on Morgana, and remember, she can be totally a viable option as she was a couple of months ago. Naafiri, I would say just revert the changes, but whatever. Her W cooldown is now going to be increased by 4. I believe now she will only be able to utilize this ability once per team fight, and the Viscera rate is now going to be decreased when it comes to scaling damage. So instead of 50% bonus AD, the flat amount is going to stay the same, and it's going to be 10% less. Big nerf for Naafiri, so yeah, I think they should they made a lot of changes, and I don't think it's really easy to put her in a healthy spot. We'll see how she lands though, because this is a huge hit as well, along with the cooldown. Orianna, let me just drink a sip of water. Okay. Basically, there are players who max W until level 5, and it's the most popular one. But now, I believe, in some matchups, you will want to go 2 points in W by level 3, and then by level 5, you will want to start maxing Q again. So instead of putting 3 points in W, in most matchups, I believe you want to go Q because it doesn't increase in mana, you can spam it more, and it will be more reliable as an ability instead of having to spend 50 mana. So even though you have Lost Chapter, Orianna is a champion that likes to spam a lot, so I believe this will change the priority to max by level 5 or by level 9, for example, to max 2 points W by level 3, and then when you reach level 5, you just go back to Q because of this flat amount of meta. Then a pass from Rengar's recommended items. Okay, no one cares. Shen is going to be fucking broken. I mean, he is already broken, but he's being back to back to back buffed. Not sure why. And when Riot increases 1% damage on his Q, well, it doesn't usually go too well. So, option 1, they're going to outfix Shen, or option 2 is going to be nerfed next patch. But I can assure you something. This is the last buff that Shen is getting for this part of the split, for this part of the year as well. Mistwalker damage to monsters 70 to 60%. Okay. Pinged abilities maybe ping to display the total damage to monsters on off cooldown. Basically for Nunu and Shogath now, this is a cool change because now you can notify how much damage you deal to the objective, and this will help you coordinate with your jungler mainly how much damage you can do and how much they have to land for smite. So it will be a better change for coordination even for solo queue. Boots of Swiftness, -5 movement speed. This is a big change. I think even though it's only 5 per se, boots, tier 2 boots are really in a weird spot apart from Symbiotic Soles, and they are getting nerfed as well. But I think they will still be doable because now it grants an out of combat movement speed, and yes, you do not get to skip or bypass a bad landing phase when you perma sheet recall and you go back into your lane without TPing or whatever. But still, you finish these boots and you rush them because they are cheap, and you can get the Empire recall when you finish stacking. It doesn't really take too long as well. So I do feel like most of the champions that built Symbiotic Souls will still be interested in these boots, and it will be an interesting option still for the player base, even though there was a lot of overreaction saying that the boots would disappear. It's not the case. Most tier 2 boots are not in a good spot, so I guess it's going to be between mostly for mids it's going to be Mercs or Swift or Symbiotic Souls into Swift March, depending if you get tier 3. Sometimes you will still do Swiftness boots in case the enemy has a lot of slows, but yeah, I think that's the direction that it's going to get. Rod of Ages, I think Riot is completely coping in this change. I think the change item should be Catalyst. Rod of Ages was a fine item, now it's complete and utter garbage. Now, what you want to do, if you want to have more stability and you don't want to be vulnerable just because Rod of Ages is being nerfed, do not ignore the build path completely. You can still do Seraphs, or you can do Catalyst first and then transition into your normal build if you really need to, okay? Because there's still a lot of value where you can get from Catalyst, even though you might not want to finish Rod of Ages. I do believe you do not want to finish Rod of Ages in most of the games. This item is completely nerfed in comparison to the previous patch. So don't do it, okay? If you want to build anything, just build Catalyst. Thank you. Tier 3 boot upgrades. Armored Advance. I mean, all boots are now going to be 500 gold. Forever Forward is now going to give 2% less total bonus movement speed out of combat. 500 gold for Greaves, and Spellslinger Shoes now minus 1% magic penetration. And now Swift March is going to be really good for Echorim and some mages such as Syndra or Orianna, for example, where you get adaptive force. So just to make the quick math to you guys, it's around 10 to 12 AD or 13 AD for AD champions that want to build this. And for AP champions, usually it will be around 20-ish AP. So you get the full amount of gold value out of this plus the movement speed. So feats of strength and the evolution is now going to be completely fine. It would be bait in the current state, and in some moments, yes, you would want to upgrade your boots depending on the scenario and depending on your boots. But currently, it is a really good spot for you to think about it. In the Eternal Ignite versus Teleport debate, it's not going to be fucking changed at all. Champions that want to take Ignite, they will still pick Ignite. And I think Ignite really performs well into champions that want to take Ignite. For example, champions that want to go with Ignite TP. Zoe, if she becomes more popular in competitive, you do want to go with Flash Ignite and not Flash Teleport. So I really don't understand this change, and Teleport is still going to be the broken ability in competitive, and people will still go for it when they have to, unless their champion archetype doesn't pull them into going with TP and with Ignite instead. So I don't really understand this change. Biscuit, TLDR. Early game, it's going to stay the same, and when you reach 1000 HP or when it scales, instead of stacking 2 or 3 biscuits in Dr. Mundo and healing the full HP bar along with your ulti, depending on your missing HP, now it's going to be an early game focused rune. Sometimes you will still want to go with it, okay. Sometimes you will want to go with biscuits in matchups where you really need the sustain if you get poked out quite massively. But in later stages, it's no longer worth for you to stack them up because it's going to give a lot less. And before it was broken, so I'm glad they changed the formula. Last change is going to be Unflinching, and this rune is fucking broken. So if you want to pair it with Bone Plating in case you're against Burst, or if you want to go with Second Wind into Unflinching for poke, it's going to be broken, okay? Yes, you lose 2 by later stages, but you get this rune for early game, essentially. And getting this base value at few early levels with Bone Plating, Burst champions get completely gutted by playing against this. So if you get Bone Plating against Burst and Unflinching, it becomes very unplayable for champions that are looking to burst you in a spell rotation, for example. So big change, and I think this was already in a decent spot. Now, in comparison to Overgrowth, if you want to scale without having any problem of getting bursted, you will still go for Overgrowth, don't get me wrong. But if you want early stats and survivability, you will want to go through this rune. This is a really strong one, and you should definitely do it. This is ARAM changes. Let's see if we have any skins coming up. Okay, can we go a bit quicker? We have bug fixes, and we have Spirit Blossom, Bard, Zyravarus, Ivern, Ashe, Aurelia, Lux, and Twitch. Awesome. TLDR of the patch. Okay, so new map is coming up. Battle Pass, Thornbound Atakhan. It will be more important for you to go for this Atakhan and you want to smite it. Before you didn't care about smiting because you could collect the plants. It was still important to do to get the smite off, but now it's 100% priority for you to get the smite off and not play for the fight only. Now it collects all petals from the map, that's why. Bounties, I'm not sure how this is going to land, but I hope it's better than it currently is. It's still better than the first part of Bounties, so let's see how it goes. Grubs are now going to be 8 minutes, and now teams will probably swap at 6:30 or 7 minutes to play grubs. Now you only need to get 2 instead of 3, so you don't care about getting the third, and you only need 2 to get the feats. So meta will be more bot side oriented because of this change, and bot lanes will matter even more when it comes to drafting system. Herald is now moving into 15 minutes. It will be easier to drive, and it will still charge even if you miss the turret, so Louis will change. And it will deal more damage to the first structure it hits, and subsequently deal less damage to the other structures. Late swap detection is going to have a bit of a change. Jungle players will have smite locked to themselves. You can now roll swap as well in Champ Select as far as I know. And support assigned players are the only ones who can get World Atlas. Basically. I apologize. That screen and kill streak are going to have some changes. Riot is going to try to punish players that are not only inters, and soft tinting is possibly going to be affected. Not sure how they will affect this, but now you will see the reported player in your screen when you get the feedback reports. And now we cannot type pre-game and post-game if you get chat restricted. This is a nice buff to try to compensate the 5% win rate loss that she got. More damage in Q, W, and more magic penetration in comparison to before. Ashe, you want to max Q versus low range matchups, and you want to max W when you want to poke, because this is a huge Q buff for Ashe. Gwen, this is a big nerf. I'm not sure if she will be as priority as she is currently. Thank God. Xante is not going to be back, no one cares. Kalista is going to be nerfed because of the possible change of grubs and Dragon becoming more popular. So she will be stronger by level. She will be fine by level 7, but weaker, a lot weaker before level 5. Leona, good quality of life changes, not broken changes, but she will be in a good spot, along with Rel, Nautilus, and frontline supports such as Rakan and Alistar. Morgana, big change for her shield and quality of life change on her ult, not because of the damage only, but because movement speed is now going to be doubled by level 6. Naafiri is now going to use W once per team fight and less scaling damage on her E, so I'm not sure how she's going to land. She should get reverted, honestly. Orianna, instead of maxing W until level 9 or level 5, you're possibly going to max W until 3, and then you shift into Q by level 5 because the mana cost is now going to be decreased, and you can be more reliable with your ball. Right now, Shen is going to be fucking broken, is back to back to back buffed, and the next patch is going to be nerfed, or there will be a not fix for Shen. Yorick will be slightly nerfed for a jungle. Shogath and Nunu can now ping their damage into abilities. Boosts of Swiftness will have a big nerf. Also will Symbiotic Soles despite being an adjustment, but they will still be one of the best puts in the game, so you still want to build these for sure. Word of Ages, right, missed the bullet. It should be Catalyst being nerfed, not Rod of Ages. Do not build Rod of Ages and build Catalyst in case you want to take profit out of the item. Not the full or complete item, but rather the components. Tier 3 boots will not be good because now they will only cost 500 gold. Some of them will be nerfed, of course, but it will still be very good to upgrade them. And Swift March now will give you 10 to 13 AD or 20 to 23 AP, depending if you're AP or AD champion. Ignite, I'm not sure why they're buffing this because Ignite versus Teleport debate will never change until they make a massive change into Teleport because it's just too competitive driven. Unless you're playing champions like Zoe or champions where you can get both Ignite and TP. So champions that can get Ignite and TP will be buffed by this. And Zoe, for example, will also get buffed by this. Also, some other champions that want to play with Ignite. Biscuit will be the same early but nerfed for mid and late game. It makes total sense. It was completely abusable, and Unflinching is fucking broken if you want to pair it up with bone plating against burst champions. Burst champions will deal less damage, and the spell rotation will not be as obnoxious as before. So if LeBlanc QWs you, if she does it immediately without waiting for bone plating and flinching, she will deal negative damage essentially. So big change. You still want to go for growth if you don't need to play this into non-burst type of champions, pretty much, and if you don't need early resistances. Also, versus champions that can shred armor and magic resistance, you don't want to take this, okay? So, example given, Olaf, and other tools that could also make this worthless. But this is really reliable right now, and it was already fine, in my perspective. So these are the changes for the upcoming 2509. Split 2 is going to begin. Good luck for your solo queues, and we'll see you next time. Let's go.